Hi, Martinette. So, welcome to the B2Lead conversation. It is an honor to have you here.
Hi, Barbara. Thanks so much for the invite.
And thank you again for taking the time. And I look so much forward to listening to your story and your leadership story. So, first of all, Martinette is head of people and culture at palm.hr in Dubai. And I don't know, Martinette, I know you have a very interesting story because you come from interesting places. So I don't know if you want to introduce briefly yourself before we enter into actually your story.
Great. Thanks, Barbara. So I am the guardian of people, I would call myself. I'm so very interested in the people side of obviously work. I have been in many places, you're right. So born in South Africa, but ended up in Australia at a very young age, and obviously climbed the corporate ladder and worked for a multiple of different companies and different industries. So yeah, very well rounded and experienced, I would say.
Awesome. And tell me, Martinette, where you are today, the role that you have today, the path that you walked, and the place where you ended up being. Is it what you always wanted? Did you plan to be there, or just life happened and you are here having this amazing position as people keeper?
Amazing. I would say at this stage, the company that I work for at the moment, obviously, we are all about creating happy workplaces, is very aligned with who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I always believe people first. And I think what we do as a company and our purpose, especially in this region and in Saudi, it's very exciting times because, like we discussed before, the world is a modern place, and the way we work today versus how we worked, for example, a year ago, is very different. So I'm very privileged to be part of this journey. And I think it did not just happen. I think you obviously, as a person, you seek out those opportunities that's more aligned to you as a person. And as you get older, you know what you want and what you don't want. So yeah, so this is where I am, and I ended up in the end of the day.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And if you had to look back at the path that you have walked, what would you say are the some of the elements that made a difference for you, and that actually allowed you to proceed and move on in your career? Can you identify maybe choices that you have made or people that you have encountered that actually made a difference for you? And at the time, maybe you did not recognize that they were steps into your future, but now looking back, um, what could you tell us about that?
Thanks. Yeah, I think my biggest advocate, I would say, was my dad. So from a very young age, I was never limited to and categorized in, this is what girls should do and this is what boys should do. So for me, it was very much following my passion and
Mm.
also having a lot of courage because I believe that, and this is like a quote, but I always say that life starts at the end of your comfort zone. As
Mm.
people, we get very comfortable and we are very risk averse in many ways, but it's taking those chances. And at a young age, I decided to go explore the world.
Mm.
Also along my journey, especially in Australia, I think I've been very lucky to come across amazing mentors, female leaders that really inspired me to take on, the world, and also with a lot of empathy. So I think for me, what I've learned and what I've experienced throughout my journey, and it wasn't always easy because I think there's times where it's very much you probably you're not capable of doing or taking on new work or new areas, but it's the support that you have in the background that pushes you forward. So I've been very lucky. There's a number of ladies in my career throughout my journey that's still up to today is very good friends, but also great mentors that made me believe that you know it's not certain roles are not for certain genders. We're all in it together.
Yeah, and that is so important, isn't it? Because and that's the purpose of having this conversation with amazing people like you, just to see that there are certain roles that are for all kinds of genders, as you say, and not just for male or female or any other kinds of people that identify in different ways, right? Can you give us an example, perhaps, of this the moment when you were courageous and you had the courage to be beyond your comfort zone, and what this lack that you're talking about that people brought to you, female leaders brought to you? Can you give us an example of what that was like?
The first example I would say was probably my leap to Australia. Obviously, I had at the time I was studying psychology. I was not sure if I was going to what it's going to be. So it's this uncertainty, and
Mm.
I had a very good, obviously, manager at the time who told me that all you need in life is what's between your ears. You don't need anything else.
Mm.
If you can figure it out, you'll always make it. You'll always land on your feet. And yeah, I'm very happy I did. I've never even been in an aeroplane, so I made my journey, and here I am today. And I think it's just the culture at the time for me was very different. I come from obviously apartheid years in South Africa, where it's very traditional in some ways. I mean, obviously today it's very modern, but going to Australia just opened my eyes to the next level, where the role of people in the workforce, it's not determined by your gender but by your capabilities. And I think the next eye opener for me, or part of my life that really made a difference, that I had a lot of courage, was to move from Australia to the Middle East. uh,
Mm.
and I have to say, looking at the internet and the information I got at the time, and a lot of people tried to talk me out of it, because I think a lot of people still think that, the Middle East is like very much old school, where it's very local, it's very gender specific. The woman's role here very different, which is very much not the case. I mean,
Mm.
obviously, I come across a lot of different cultures here, and maybe in specific cultures, because it is like a melting pot of cultures and diversity. Um,
Mhm.
in some cases, yes, I would say a lot of people still have that struggle. But then also in other cases, depending on your culture and where you come from, there's no limitations, definitely. And especially now in the UAE, there's a big push on women in the workplace. A lot of organizations even strive to have a higher count of female leaders, in the company. So, yeah, so I think it's a great time to be here. It's a great time to have started. Obviously, I've also got a women's motorbike group. In the
Mm.
beginning, it was something that wasn't really heard of. There was only like maybe one or two people that used to ride motorbikes, but it's not something that women are seen to do here. It's not really acceptable. And I find that the support we received, especially from men, to get more visibility and attract more females into the sport, because it's so male dominated, made a huge change to what it is today.
So, Martinette, you have created an association for women motorcycle people. I don't know, I'm not an expert in this. So what moved you to do this? Because it sounds very interesting. So for people that perhaps like me are not very familiar with this, what moved you to take action in this direction and to create this group, this association?
My first ride in the UAE in a group, uh, it was only me and another lady, and I soon found out that it was very much about the egos. And I mean, they just left us behind. So we used to go on the desert rides where we all start together as a group and then go from point A to B and then go back. And I soon realized that, hang on a minute, they're not going to wait for us. They don't want girls to ride with them. So I then decided that, you know what, I'm sure that a lot of ladies must feel intimidated and feel the same than I do. So that's probably why they don't even are interested in joining, or starting to ride motorbikes. And yes, so we obviously got support from a company called KTM, who's obviously a distributor of motorbikes, and they were very supportive to help us to create try days, which obviously is something that
Wow.
we started very early in 2019 to get ladies to come and try the sport, and then obviously take it on from there with a lot of support from ourselves. Yeah, so it's all women empowerment.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Also, because you have the desert there, and actually riding motorbikes in the desert must be really empowering and give a strong, a beautiful sense of freedom. I can imagine there, right?
Yeah,
Beautiful. Congratulations on this initiative.
thank
So,
you.
I have another question for you. You spoke about female leaders that actually were very helpful in your career. And I was wondering if you intentionally looked for mentors or role models that you could have followed in your career. And if you did, how did you find them and what did they bring to your life?
So the leaders that I had in my career, obviously, were were women that also went through kind of a struggle to get there. And I think a lot of times we see the glass ceiling where, leaders get to a certain stage and then they can't get further than that. And what I found that really made a difference to me is that the involvement in my career as such, and also the mentorship that I received, because I find that a lot of times, and I mean, I can't say it is the case, but I've seen that a lot where women leaders think that they have to act or be aggressive or be like men in order to be successful. So, and I've had those leaders as well, but the leaders that really stood out for me and that made a difference in my career are the women that were supportive, that had a lot of empathy, that understood me as a person, but also made sure that there would be no limitations to where I want to go. So really about following my passion and supporting, my ideas and bringing that to life. So I think those were really truly the people that inspired me. And even up to today, I can still pick up the phone and give them a call and ask for advice. So it's not limited to your career or your job with a certain company, but it's an ongoing relationship that really turns you into, feeling that there's no limitations.
So I understand that these mentors that you had, and they really were there for you. They were supportive, and you have spent time to build a relationship with them, and therefore build trust, right? Just to dive a little bit deeper, when you say that they were supportive with you, what does it mean? That they gave you time, that they were listening in a different way, that they gave you opportunities that otherwise you would not have had? How were they supportive, so that we have an idea of what is possible if other women, or we are in a situation where we would like to achieve something and we find that we seem to be alone? So just to understand, what does it mean that they were supportive?
It was pretty much the belief, and the support that they gave me was around, seeing me as an individual, but also understanding that I have a life outside of work. So I think
Mm,
sometimes as women, we're juggling a lot of things at the same time because
mm,
we have different roles within our lives. So it was understanding obviously your life situations, but also by looking at what you wanted to do as a person, like the passion you had, the strengths that you had, and build on
mm,
those. And it is almost like understanding it from a different sense. I mean, w-
mm,
we as ladies, we sometimes get cranky during certain, during months, and as a female leaders understand that just better because we can associate. So I think for me, I'm very privileged to have had, those leaders that looked at me as a person and had a lot of empathy and had a lot of belief in you what I wanted to do. And it wasn't limited to any tasks that I couldn't do or, any ideas that I wanted to share. And in fact,
mm,
most of my mentors, they're the people that encourage me to stand up and to voice how I felt about certain aspects. And I've had
beautiful.
situations where in the workplace, uh, we've had a leader before, a different leader who pretty much at the time he saw women as, they're more the secretaries and, the different roles. They're more the people that would be in HR. And for him in his mind, it was very cut and dry. And I remember my leader, mentor at the time, female, she just cut through all of that. It's like cut through the BS and say what it is. There's no such thing as having a divide, and there's no such thing as you can't be promoted because you're a certain gender. So yeah, I've been very lucky.
Beautiful, really beautiful. So it seems like these mentors and these leaders that you have collaborated with, they were really sponsors for you. They could see your talent, they could see your potential, and they created space for you to express it, which is what we need, right? Because then we have our own way. And so if somebody holds a space and creates a space for us, that's amazing and allows us to blossom, as in your case. Thank you for sharing this. I have another question for you, Martinette. There is a lot of conversations about the difference between male and female in leadership, and sometimes this is my opinion. Sometimes we women, we need to not to see ourselves as victims, but actually still agents and with the possibility to do something within this context. Having said that, if you had a chance to have a conversation with male leaders, could be your colleagues or people that friends of yours that are leaders in other organizations, and if you could tell them something that maybe you have never told any male colleagues, as into how they could actually support women and collaborate in a way that would allow women to actually move forward in a leadership position, what would you tell them? What is something that you maybe never told them that you would like to tell them that, in your opinion, if men acted or behaved in a certain way, would make a difference from women in the context of many organizations?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a lot of what you said as well, it comes from us as women, because there is sometimes it depends on your upbringing. There is that belief and mindset that maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not strong enough, maybe I'm not assertive enough. And I think the message I would have for male leaders is to see through all of that and disregard it, because disregard,
I
take off
like that.
your
Let's disregard it.
yeah, forget about it. Because it's about someone's capabilities and it's about their passion. And I feel that, yes, there's definitely a different style and how people lead. But in the end of the day, that should never be something that will hinder you from moving forward. We all operate differently, we think differently, our styles are different. And, we do not have to fit into a certain category in order to be successful, because if you're an inspirational leader, it doesn't matter who you are or what you are, you're still going to inspire.
That's a beautiful, beautiful suggestion. And would you say, therefore, Martinette, that perhaps we could invite men to be a little bit more curious about their female colleagues in a positive and non-judgmental way, beyond biases that we all are used to, but really trying to understand and see the new and the possibilities and beyond what they already know. And perhaps this is a good suggestion for everybody, right? Being curious about people that you know and you are used to see in a certain way. I think
Yeah.
that could, yeah. Do you agree? Curiosity could be an interesting way to approach this.
Yeah, and it is true what you say, because it's not just male and female, and I think it's one of the things that I really admire, and the way I look at people, even in my interviews, looking for the right candidate, I always say, it's not about the person and their skills. I can see that from their resume, but it's about their character. And we all wear different hats at different times. So it's understanding what are the other hats that this person is wearing? What are their challenges in their life? What brought them to where they are today? And what
Yeah.
can I do to accept them and understand them better as a person? Because understanding them as a person will also give me an idea of their thinking. And maybe I
Yeah.
can learn from that. So I think it is not just with gender, but as an overall with cultures. And I find that here, in this massive diversity in UAE, it's something that I have learned from a lot. And I understand myself better knowing other people's cultures and how they operate within their culture and outside of their culture. So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so let's look back a little bit to younger generation. Really, let's imagine teenagers. So if you have, I don't know if you have a daughter or a son, but if you had a daughter, a teenage daughter that um, expresses the desire to go into an organization, working in an organization, or any way, she wants to express herself, right? And she will start her path to leadership. What would be one key advice that you will give her?
The advice I would give, obviously, I don't have a daughter. I wish I had one because she would be amazing. It would definitely to be bold and to be beautiful and to be brave and never lose your identity. For me, it's key because you don't have to fit into someone else's frame, fit into
Mm.
your own frame, and then grow yourself from there. Yeah, I think it's important for for young people to accept who they are. And I find, especially today, with all the images that we see in social media, and it influences who we want to be as people. So never lose your identity and be beautiful.
I love that. Be bold, be brave, and be beautiful, and don't lose your identity. And I love particularly the fact that you stress also the fact of be beautiful. So the sense of beauty, it seems like it is important, and it is to be cultivated.
Absolutely. I think how we see ourselves, especially as women, is important. And the beauty might not always be from the outside, but it's inside how I feel, what my heart looks like. And and I always say that if you care about yourself, you will care about other people. So that's really important, is to look after yourself. And it's feeling good about yourself.
Awesome. That I think that is so powerful also because it is inviting um, young women to consider beauty as something that has substance and power to change the way you feel, the way other people feel, and not just as an aesthetic element to protect yourself somehow, right? I need to be beautiful so I am accepted, but actually beauty as something that can be shared as a positive energy, given that, and that creates happiness as well, given that what you do as well, right?
Definitely. I find, and this is probably a different topic and a huge topic, around, especially young women these days. I find that, the icons in the world is not necessarily the people that, that's what they want to be. So what the media portray and what people think they should be is very far removed from who they are actually as people. And that's where the acceptance and the self-esteem and everything that comes with that comes in, is how they develop as young people. And having so many options, I'm so glad I'm not a youngster these days. It's so confusing. I feel for young people. It's the belief that they have in themselves, and especially when they walk into a workplace, the expectations that they have, and
Mm,
sometimes the reality is there's a mismatch. And
mm.
it can be very, very confusing.
Mm. So this is something that you notice, even people that you encounter for work, that there is a mismatch between their expectation and the reality of those, what those expectation could be like, in the
Yeah.
sense that they expect more than what is actually there or less than what it's actually there, and they expect from themselves or from the company. Just a very interesting point that you have raised.
Yeah, so for me, I think the expectations they have of who they are, because we we grow up in a world these days where everybody's a winner, and in your mind, you need to accept that you will fail, and it's okay. And I find that a lot of times the concept of people accepting that their abilities and they all want to be the CEO tomorrow. Like it's something that, you know, they can't wait. And I guess it's the nature of the society we live in today. But I find that, you know, failing for people, they give up much quicker than, you know, people that kind of started, you know, a couple of years ago, 20 years ago. The workforce survival means something totally different now than it was then. So, and what's creating the images is the upbringing and the choices that people have, and the images that they have of who they should be. So I think that's a total, it's a big topic on, you know, people development.
Yeah, I love this topic actually, the topic about identity and who am I really. When I compare, as you said, myself with what I see on social media and those lives that seem to be always so great and people so successful all the time. And then how do I identify myself and how do I recognize myself? This is a huge topic. You're right. Martinette, is there anything else you would like to add that you haven't yet mentioned and that you would like to share before we conclude this beautiful conversation?
Thank you, Barbara. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and for all of the ladies out there, be bold and be beautiful and be brave, and never hold back on anything, any of your passions.
Beautiful. I will quote you a lot, Martinette. Be bold, be brave, be beautiful. I really love it. I really love it. And if some ladies or people that have listened to this conversation want to connect with you, how can they find you? Is LinkedIn a good place for them to connect with you?
Absolutely. Just ping me on LinkedIn, and I'll respond. And even if people want to have a conversation or know a little bit more or just say hello, feel welcome. Always welcome.
Excellent. So here we go. Martinette, you can find her and connect with her on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Martinette, for your time and your sharing of your story. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure many ladies and gentlemen that will listen to this will appreciate your sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.